Everyone, thank you for coming and for the Charlotte City Council items that we're going to do. We have a very extensive agenda for today, or today as well as tonight. But let's go ahead and begin. So I'm going to start with our city clerk for introductions.
Billy Times, Deputy City Clerk.
Anthony Fox, Interim City Attorney.
Good evening, Renee Johnson, and I'm honored to represent District 4.
Dante Anderson, Mayor Pro Tem, District 1.
Vi Lyles, Mayor.
Marcus Jones, City Manager.
Malcolm Graham, District 2.
Ed Driggs, I'm sorry, I'm chewing. Ed Driggs, District 7.
Darby Carter, 6.
Good evening, Luana Mayfield, Councilmember at Large.
So if I had a gavel, I would knock on it and hit the table, and we start out with our consent agenda items. Are there any consent agenda items, Ms. Harris, that we have for discussion?
Madam Mayor, we have one item, number 29, that is being pulled off the consent agenda. It's been settled.
Thank you very much.
And then
Cool.
I was able to talk to Ms. Mayfield that had questions on a item, and she's given me the thumbs up, so I believe she's satisfied with the answers on that one.
All right. Any other council members that would like to make, Ms. Johnson, yes?
Thank you. Number 16.
You want to have it pulled out for discussion or just a comment?
Just a comment. Thank you.
Okay. Item 16 for comment by Ms. Johnson. Anyone else? All right, so let's go ahead and have a motion for all of the items with the exception of 16 that are listed in our consent agenda. Do we have a motion?
So
Madam
moved.
Mayor,
And the one that was.
yes, Madam Mayor, I'm sorry. I
Oh,
believe
and the
Ms.
one that was also pulled by the staff,
And I
item
believe,
29.
Madam
I'm
Mayor,
sorry.
Ms. Johnson wanted to comment, not separate vote. Is that correct?
Well, we usually,
Wait, I'm sorry.
Usually the same.
I've got too many people. I'm talking to me, so, all right, so Ms. Johnson, I thought I wanted item 16 with a comment.
yes.
Okay, and Ms. Mayfield, no, who pulled up the property
Staff.
transactions?
29 was pulled by staff. It's settled.
Staff pulled that
Yes,
one
ma'am.
down. So do we have a motion now for the remaining items that we have on the consent agenda? Items 13 all the way to 28 with the exception of 29 and 16.
And
So
30
moved.
as well.
All right?
We
I'm
have an
sorry.
item 30 as well.
I thought
29 was the only
I
property.
said 29, 30 through property.
Okay,
All right,
okay,
sorry.
sorry.
It's item 29, and then it ends with 30. So if that's okay, Mr. Fox?
That's right.
Can we have an actual little gap there sometimes every now and again? Thank you. All right, so with that, all in favor of the motion, please raise your hand.
Where there's a motion. Ed made the motion.
I
Seconded.
thought Mr.
I
Mr.
did.
Driggs made
I'm
the
still
motion,
going to
and
make it.
Mr. Bakari seconded. Maybe okay. Do we
Okay, I'm
have the
sorry.
motion? Who's going to make?
We have a
Mr.
motion, yes.
Mr. Driggs is doing, and is there a second?
Second.
We have a second here. So now let's go ahead and vote on the motion as it's been put together in a group setting. All in favor, raise your hands. Anyone opposed? No one is opposed. And so now let's go to Ms. Johnson on item 16, which is McCullough Drive streetscape improvements. Ms. Johnson.
Thank you. I just wanted to lift up this transaction. It's the McCullough Drive streetscape improvements in the amount of almost $7 million. Looks like the contract is meeting the established MBE and the WBE goal, and it has support from University City Partners. So we're looking forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So now I'd like to turn it over to the city manager for an overview of our action review discussion topics. Mr. Jones.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. We have one item under action review tonight, and it's the evolution of transit-oriented development. It's something I think it's very timely to have the discussion today. You do have one closed session item, Madam Mayor, but if there aren't any questions, I'd like to turn it over to Monica Holmes and Warren Wooten. I love seeing that. Wooten.
All right, so if you guys would join us for the presentation on the evolution of transit-oriented development.
Great. Well, I hope everybody is doing well tonight. My name's Monica Holmes. I'm the interim planning director. I know all of you fairly well. So tonight we are going to be talking a little bit about TOD, transit-oriented development, and really how over time the city's thinking has evolved and kind of where we are in this current space today. I think it's really important to understand where we're going is really to look back first at kind of where we've been and how we've gotten to where we are today. This presentation will walk through some of the numbers and some of the history and really kind of talk through exactly where we are headed. So first we'll really do that historical view, then talk about specifically what is transit-oriented development. What does early transit-oriented development look like in Charlotte? Many of you have been a part of that history. You've seen that history as it has happened. We'll talk about some of the lessons learned that we're applying. We'll talk about how we're changing the way we are currently planning for transit-oriented development, the plans in progress, and then our look forward. What are our next steps? And I want to just, before I dive in, Warren will be presenting some on the housing tools today, and he's a really valuable asset, but I also want to make sure that you know that all this work is really done in partnership across the city, and it's taking a fresh kind of team's approach to it. And so we have some economic development partners here, and Katz, who's obviously critical to, and the transit-oriented development work that's happening collaboratively across the city. So I am representing the team tonight. So taking a look here, you'll see on the left side of the screen a photo from South End today and the cover of the South End Transit Station Area Plan that was adopted in the mid-2000s. And then on the right side of the screen, you'll see a rendering from the 2040 plan and the cover of our Charlotte Future 2040 plan. And this really represents where we started with transit-oriented development, really just focusing on density and intensity and a mixture of uses. And most of that has gotten built in that way. And really where we're going, which is with a lens on more than just a mixture of uses and more than just density, and how we're building communities that really benefit from transit and holistically incorporate a wide variety of more than just the physical form, but also the resources on the ground to give economic mobility to those communities. So the success of transit alone is really more than just designing for the train. I think we all know that, but it's really important to know that our vision for transit and a land use vision must go hand in hand. So they have to work together. We have to understand what is happening within the station area of a transit station versus just where the line is. And we've been doing this work for going on 30 years now. And the thinking around how we do this work is really what the evolution is. So you'll see here on the far left that when we first built the transit line, we saw that there was existing development already adjacent to transit. So we would call that transit-adjacent development, meaning that We put the line in the ground, we open the stations, there are things that exist, there are developments, commercial properties, neighborhoods that are just happen to be transit adjacent. We then evolved to that vision of kind of what I was talking about in the late 90s, early 2000s, mid 2000s around transit-oriented development. So how do we build new development that is taking that transit line and the transit investment into account? And that really came from a place of getting private investment, getting higher density, more people to access the transit. And where we are moving towards, and that far right, is really transit-oriented communities. So it's not just about the private development and private investment, but about the communities that the transit serves and how we're doing that in an equitable way where everyone is benefiting from the investment of transit. So I mentioned earlier, we've been doing this work for 25 plus years, and it's evolved over time. So I spent a little time digging into our historical bank of all the different decisions we've made really since 1998 all the way up until today around transit and land use joined together. So our very first transit land use plan was in was a 2025 plan. So we've now reached the horizon year, and that was done looking at where transit lines were going and with the centers, corridors, and wedges land use vision. So those corridors were transit lines. And then fast forward, we adopted, and I'll talk through these station area principles in 2001, all the way through the first TOD ordinance. Then we did the second TOD ordinance in 2019, opening transit lines along the way. So the blue line, the gold line, Blue Line extension, Gold Line Phase 2, and then ending today with the Red Line purchase that we have. The transit-oriented development work has run in parallel to those transit investments and continues to evolve as we continue to learn what transit does for a community, how it can benefit a community, and how we can leverage those benefits to bring real value. So let's talk a little bit about those 2001 transit station, transit-oriented development principles and how they hit the ground today. So we say 25 years plus of transit-oriented development planning, but in all honesty, Charlotte has really been doing transit-oriented development work and planning for 100 plus years with our streetcar suburbs. I'm going to focus on that transit station area principles 2001 to the comp plan and onward for today. So when we're talking about transit-oriented development today, we're talking about 4 major components. So 1 is a mixture of uses, 2 is engaging community spaces, 3 is that it's accessible and that all users have access, and then 4 is development centered on equity. Now, the first 3, 1, 2, and 3, mixture of uses, engaging community spaces, and accessible to all users, those were adopted policy by the City of Charlotte in 2001. So those were the 3 station area principles that we adopted in 2001 and still resonate today. The 4th, which I'm going to focus on first, development centered on equity, is really something we added and started putting into practice with our lexicon and our resources and how we're investing in community at about 2018, 2019. And really, this is the core component today that I think is the most valuable add to our transit station principles. This is where we prioritize premium transit that contributes to equitable access to entrepreneurship and jobs, services, housing, and that it's all integrated. So housing, small business, into our transit station areas. This photo here on the right is a opportunity hub that was opened in the Freedom Corridor. It's within a mile of a future transit line. It's important to think about how these layer on top of each other and that we're looking at through that equitable lens, even in our investments today. So let's talk about what the other 3 core components in transit station principles are and how they have been built out. And again, these are about 24 years and they still resonate today. So number 1 is a mixture of uses. So to bring true benefit of transit with land use policies is that you really need to have access to all goods and services, housing, jobs, et cetera, within a short trip of transit so that you can easily access it by bike, by foot, And we really promote those mixture of uses so that you don't have to spend that travel time, 40 minutes to a grocery store, getting to a pharmacy. The next piece is engaging community spaces. So walkable elements that create a vibrancy and lead to those economic benefits. So wide sidewalks, street trees for shade. We know that with the effects of climate change, it's very important to have shade and street trees. That parking is in the rear or out of sight so that we're really promoting and making it a more walkable place. And that last but not least, that there's spaces and places for play and community gathering. So the image on the right shows a Beatties Ford pocket park that was opened a couple of years ago that the city invested in. That's right next to a future transit station, and critical that that space is there for community gathering and to really add value to the neighborhood around it in a way that provides social opportunities and support. And then the last core component is accessible to all users. And this is really access in how you are able to get to the station. So that it's a comfortable walk or bike within that half mile of a transit station area. So you'll see often in transit-oriented developments that there's more street network that is proposed, and that's highly encouraged because the more street network you have, the more paths you have, the rail trail, the more access that people who live within a half mile to a mile have to that transit station area. So it's really important that you capture that larger ridership area because we want access for all people who live within walking, biking distance. So let's talk about how this played out in the early TOD development in Charlotte. So in our first transit stations areas, in the Blue Line and the Blue Line extension, and along with the Gold Line, we've had about $12 billion in private investment. And now this is where we really need to own kind of what this looks like. There's about 50,000 housing units that have been built or are currently under construction today within a quarter mile of a transit station area. So that is about 100,000 people household-wise that have access to transit today. That exists on the ground today. That's about 12 million square feet of non-residential development, so office, retail, again, within that half mile, and about 2,500 affordable housing units. So these are the numbers. I think we can all recognize, and we'll talk about some of our lessons learned about how we use this information to inform the decisions we make looking forward, as we will likely see more private investment. So just a quick look of what that looks like for those who have been in Charlotte for a long time. You can see, what this looked like. It's hard to remember sometimes what some of these places looked like in just 2007, and then what they look like today with all of that new investment and development. You see new office, new residential. This street is North Brevard, right next to our 25th Street station. It's incredible to see the difference between years ago and today. There's thousands of units being constructed on Brevard Street as we speak. You can see here West Trade Street, looking at the Beatties Ford Road corridor as you head out of town with that Mosaic Village, and then the public space on the right. This is Hawthorne, and you see some of the new development there. So lots of private development. But what have we learned from that development and the zoning codes and the regulations and the policies that got us there? So I think what we've learned, and the rest of the presentation will kind of focus on this as we look forward, is that we have to build in affordability, both housing, small business, and commercial from the very beginning. So we have to, the second we announce a transit line, we look at a transit station area, we have to start talking about what that really looks like. And we have to create intentional anti-displacement policies for both residents and businesses. And we have to use an all-of-the-above approach to provide multiple opportunities for affordability and access. So it's not a one-size-fits-all solution. It is using all the tools in the toolbox, and we'll focus a little bit on some of those tools. And so how can we apply these lessons learned on our current rapid transit lines in development? So this map here is our vulnerable to displacement map. So the red lines show the future high-frequency bus lines. The blue line and the gold you can see is what is built. And we have to be strategic about how we use information like this and what we've learned from the early days of the blue line and the gold line, and how we apply that looking forward to make informed decisions. We also, and I think we've already started to do that. So we in our early policy development, as we started to shift towards ETOD and really realizing how we needed to put the equitable into the transit-oriented development, we already have adopted policy that starts to look in that direction. So using that vulnerable to displacement work, where the future transit lines are going, we already have in the 2040 plan adopted that we are prioritizing equitable transit-oriented development along our high-performance transit and trail lines. And so that's already a foundation of where we're headed. And it's important to note what that actually means when we go to do the work, when we go to put the policies, the programs, and the partnerships in place. And it's really that ETOD is providing all people access and the opportunity to experience the benefit of transit and being proximate to transit. So ETOD is community focused, it's meant to be inclusive and incorporate multiple strategies, as I mentioned earlier, all the tools in the toolbox to avoid displacement. So you can see on the right side some of the broader goals that are within that. And then we'll talk through kind of how some of those play out. So really measuring what success looks like, working with communities, so it's a community-driven policy, and then putting pilot projects into the ground and programs in station areas so that we can start to see measurably what's working, what's not working, and then modify if necessary. So I'm going to turn this over to Warren to start talking a little bit about how this is starting to play out specifically in housing and what some of those tools look like.
Thanks, Monica. Good evening, everyone. I've really enjoyed being part of the equitable transit-oriented development work because what we're doing here is we are talking to our residents who need transit most about what will benefit them the most. So while you hear me talking through specific tools, it's really the work that we're doing in the individualized, equitable transit-oriented development strategies that is going to inform where we deploy what tool into the community. That's a community-led approach. I appreciate seeing Robert Dawkins here from Action NC, who's been helping with that equitable TOD work and is really helping us reach those people who use your transit the most so that we understand as this work goes forward where to deploy these tools. So these tools are going to look familiar to you. We've been building them over the years. This is informed by our anti-gentrification strategy, our anti-displacement strategy, work that we've been doing for years, where we noticed that the communities that have the most transit and mobility are also your communities that are most vulnerable to displacement. You'll also notice that many of these approaches come directly out of Mr. Harlow and Mrs. Graham's work with the Nest Commission. That work was extremely valuable in us hearing directly from the community about the types of tools that are going to be necessary. And so you're going to see those here in front of you. So the first tool that we've been using that you've already deployed is the work that we've been doing around land acquisition. So as part of your UDO, you initiated a fee in lieu program where developers who it was cost prohibitive to them to provide on-site affordable housing could pay the fee in lieu. So to date, $4.8 million has been paid, and $16 million in commitments have been provided by developers. And as they move forward in development, they then pay into that fund. Part of that $4.8 million was the money that you recently approved for our first TOD land acquisition. So this is the Give Impact project that's right on the Blue Line extension that will provide between 200 and 225 new affordable housing units proximal to your Blue Line station. So this is the type of investments that are possible through land acquisition activities as we build out those lines. And you'll see that you've actually been doing this for years. Your affordable housing locational siting tool that we use every time we bring you a new housing trust fund project has baked into it transit-oriented scoring so that you can see on every one of those projects what kind of transit access that project has. And you'll see, and I won't read through all of these, but here are a number of projects. These were all within half a mile of the Blue Line that have been built between Uptown going out to the UNCC campus. So more work that you're very familiar with, because you just approved another project, is the affordable housing, the NOAA tool, the preservation work that you've been doing. We know that we're not going to build our way out of affordable housing. We need to secure and protect some of the existing naturally occurring affordable housing, much of which is along these transit corridors, and that we're looking at as we are making recommendations about projects for you to fund through the NOAA tool. So this is yet another tool that has a NOAA, that has a transit play that you can not just build, but you can acquire things that are proximal to these lines. This has the added benefit that it's not just preservation, but this is also anti-displacement. Many of these properties that you see come before you are for sale, and so having these mission-driven organizations come in and buy them, they actually lower or sustain the rents rather than seeing people displaced when they're renovated and prices rise on a market rate situation. Another program that you piloted over the last 7 years and has now being offered as an ongoing revolving loan pool is the ARR program. So this is where, aside from multifamily, doing some of this same work with single family, how are we able to purchase these units so that neighborhoods like the one featured here, Hidden Valley, those units are not just bought by developers who want to flip them or by your I investor who is then turning those into a rental unit. Through this, we're working with partners like Habitat for Humanity to purchase these properties back and turn them into for sale program housing units so that you can forward your mission of home ownership. And then the work that we've been doing around neighborhood stabilization. So we've taken the work that we've done through Staying in Place, and we've done a lot of work in what we used to call our housing rehab team. We now call it our neighborhood stabilization team, because not only are they doing housing rehabilitation in some of your most vulnerable areas, you're also wrapping wraparound services around this work, where we're partnering with community health workers to find out not only is there a rehab that we can do, but are there other needs that you have to help you feel comfortable and be able to stay in place? This is physical health. This is mental health referrals. This is food referrals. This is daycare referrals, all part of your new neighborhood stabilization approach. So that's some of the tools that are being brought to bear on this work, and I'm going to turn it over to Monica to give us our next steps.
So we want to give you some information today about where we are and also where we're going around this ETOD work and how we're building out a complete program and system. So first is that we want to really continue to build the capacity of our transit-adjacent communities to further support ETOD. And these strategies were in our 2022 TOD study that we did. We then want to embed those principles into the planning process so that we're looking at this as a holistic approach for all of our future lines. And we want to focus on making the work required easier and more predictable. So with that, we were awarded in 2022 an ETOD grant. So CATS and Planning, along with the town of Matthews, have been working on this. We are expecting about a 12 to 14 month process, and that will continue working on those anti-displacement policies, programs, and projects to really create more economic mobility opportunity. We have a list of community stakeholders that have been involved with the work to date, and we continue to build this list as we bring that project forward. And we want to just continue focusing on the work, not just on the housing side, but on how we can create that business resiliency planning and access work, and how we can be more transparent and strategic with the community about how that work is happening in their neighborhood and the timing around it. So again, continuing capacity building, pilot projects, and programs as we move the work forward. So you can see here, this is just a reminder of all the development that's happening within our community. We're really starting to see how you can deploy tools and get both for sale housing that includes affordable housing, how we can embed units into private development so we have mixed income housing, and how we can work to get small business space in some of the new development that's occurring, and really how we build our next steps in our future with transit-oriented communities and with ETOD. So just a couple takeaways to finish tonight is that we are starting early in the process, and we want to continue that as a core principle. This type of work and this type of planning work really has to be embedded into project development. We have to set a large table with room for the community and for partners, which we're starting to do and we have been doing, but it has to be a core principle from the beginning every time. We are engaging in shared learning with other communities that build transit. So we are partners with Impact, which is pretty much the largest transit-oriented equitable transit-oriented development organization in the country. And we're learning from our peers there. So working with cities like Minneapolis and Phoenix and Seattle and Portland and Salt Lake City, all to see what they're doing and what we can learn from and how we can apply it to Charlotte. And then we want to assess and continue to plan with equity as the cornerstone. So how we're measuring our success and how we're measuring the tools that we're deploying, and that we're continuing to ground them in the common goals that we all share. So again, we really appreciate the opportunity to give you a preview at some of the work that's happening around the city and in collaboration. We're happy to answer any questions you may have going forward on this work.
Well, first, thank you for the opportunity to give us the time to think about this before we begin to actually activate what we're trying to do and to actually look at this. I want to the first thing I thought about was the Housing Committee's recommendation that we approved that had a grid of how do we want to make sure that housing was available in all of the categories that we need in this community, and you certainly did hit that. I think it's really amazing that we have the idea, then you were talking about corridors and how that makes a real difference here. But I think the toughest thing that I think we have to do is to actually own the idea that we must invest in the purchase of land so that people can have a place to live. And this is our best opportunity as we begin to serve other parts of our community. I would love to have a mirror program for small businesses within the same kind of structure and plan that you have. I don't know if we can do that, but I think that people that have been on these corridors that have been, selling the corner store or the barbecue place, they will need a place as well as we're going through this. And I know that we'll have a lot of time for discussion. This is something important for us. And then the only other, thought that I had is that how fast will we be able to actually look at some of the policy recommendations that we could refer to the Housing Committee as well as the ED Committee to begin to meld this together? So that was just a lot of talking words, I guess, but any comments on it?
So I'll just say the ETOD planning work that is happening right now will give us very targeted strategies in the next, it's a 12 to 14-month project. So we expect by the end of that we will have some good takeaways, and it is all of our collaborative teams' responsibility to make sure that those then can get funneled into where we can put them into action quickly.
And Warren, I don't know, do you know if we're still able to be qualifying for the federal funds for housing along with transit? That might be possible, or is that something, can you?
I think it's a possibility. I think that there's a lot of question marks at the federal level right now about what the future is going to look like, but we're actively looking at all of those opportunities and keeping them on the radar.
Okay, thanks. Let us know more as you see it coming across the screen, okay?
Absolutely.
I'm sorry.
No, I just wanted to.
Okay, we'll start with our Mayor Pro Tem.
I just had a super easy question. Monica, you were mentioning the peer cities that you were looking at. I caught Seattle and Salt Lake City. What were the other ones?
So we are on a national steering committee with other peer cities. So it includes Minneapolis, Austin, Denver, Portland, Seattle, Phoenix, Salt Lake City. So we would consider those peer cities who are investing in transit that are, deploying similar tools and kind of learning from each other.
Thank you.
All right. Ms. Johnson? And I
Thank-
can't see Ms. Ajmira. Did you have your hand up? So we'll go with Ms. Johnson and then Ms. Ajmira.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you for the presentation. I appreciate the intentionality surrounding equitable development. I do want to ask, how are we going to define success? If we look at you showed a slide, and I think there were 100,000 residential units with 2,500 that are affordable. So I think that's right around, is it 0.2%, or it's very minimal?
Yeah, it's 50,000 units, 2,500 affordable in our first gen. So, yes.
Oh, okay, I thought the slide said 100,000 units.
No, I was saying 100,000, like if you were to say the number of people.
Oh, that's right,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
okay. So either way, right?
Yeah.
How are we going to manage that? Other than, I guess, buying land around the TOD or around transit is one way, but we can't, I guess the incentives for developers, or how are we going to manage that, and what will be the goal, and how are we tracking the goal and reporting the goal, and keeping council involved and engaged so that we're focused on that as well. Thank you.
Great question, thank you. I think that it is a broad-based approach and strategy. So it's the work that you and your colleagues have already been doing in the HTF. You've given us some really broad marks to hit in terms of categories that you want to see fund and some broad goals that you want us to take forward. One of those is the land acquisition piece. Two, it's also figuring out the right, we're always working with our developers, both the affordable developers and the market rate developers, because we believe that they both have a critical role to play in doing this work. So we're actively working with those developers about what is the right mix of incentives that we can help you do a little bit more in your transit line. So working with the affordable, to do full affordable, working with your market rate developers to get a piece of their developments as affordable. It's also the services piece, right? So we've heard loud and clear that you want to see your housing investments connected to services and connected to mobility. So we've been doing that work with this last HTF round, asking developers to bring more services in so people can move out of the, more people can move out of the need to stay in affordable housing. And then there's also, the missing middle approach. So things that we're working on right now is that not everything that will affect the work that you're doing in your communities needs to be 100 units, needs to be 200 units. So developing those strategies for infill investments that will return outsized affordable housing returns is all part of the work. And I think that, to your question of how do we measure it, part of that is the ETOD work that Laura is doing a great job on and that we're all on the team. Part of that work is having the community also set a scorecard to say, this is what we've asked for and this is what we would like you to measure yourselves against to report back to us on achieving it. So that's part of the ETOD work that we're doing as well.
Thank you. I look forward to really getting into the details of that, or hearing about the details of that. And then I also agree with the mayor, the small businesses, the businesses that have been on the corridors, this whole time. So, and anti-displacement strategies for them. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Ms. Ajmira?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Great job, Monica and Warren, for this presentation and really developing a proactive approach to address displacement as we are going to see more transit-oriented development as we move forward with the mobility plan. So I agree with some of the questions that the mayor had asked about small businesses and how we could potentially use some of the funds that we have to support existing small businesses that are located in transit-oriented development area, as well as having some, I know you talked about a TOD scorecard, right? But I guess it's what we measure is important. We already know the goal considering the need and potential development that we have seen along the blue line. So if having that goal, whether it's through the committee or whether it's through the advisory boards we have, and comparing our goal with the actual results would be important as part of our scorecard, as well as progress on CEAP commitments. Obviously, we are going to see a lot of this development. How would that help us with continuing to meet our goals on CEAP? That's all I have. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
All right, Ms. Mayfield?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you for this presentation. I'm glad to see that we're putting some energy in this space when we look at where we have made investments for transit-oriented development, and there has been a lot of displacement. I hope that when we're looking at community, we're not necessarily looking at the current community, because those are the individuals that were able to take advantage of the development investments that we made, and not necessarily those that have been displaced. As an example, when we look at the cost of housing, I was on Realtor.com earlier. A home is on the market today that in 2022, that house was listed at $242,000. It is $178,000 more today. So we're also building smaller at a much higher cost. I like the idea of us having some home ownership along the line, again, when we look at displacement, and I hope that as a council, we recognize the strength in a no for those who may come before us with a proposal to purchase along the rail for land. But when we speak about businesses, I hope we're also working with our fire department, mainly because I don't know if my colleagues have as well, have received correspondence lately where older buildings that were under previous language, now because of our 2040 plan, they're being told that they need to make X number of dollars of investments to bring the buildings into compliance. Along this rail, we're gonna have a lot of older buildings. So when we're looking at small businesses and affordability and accessibility, we also have to think about the potential financial impacts of what our new language says, as well as how is that building being reimagined? And how is it being utilized today? And if there's a way for us to help guide either through our partnerships with our corporate banking community or some of our other partners to help create those new enhancements and reduce the cost to that small business, if at all possible. But at least be a part of the conversation on the front end and make sure that our fire marshal and our fire chief are also a part of those conversations as they're doing their inspections on land that we're looking at potentially developing. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was just going to add much of the sentiments that were already added. Essentially, I'm glad to see that these policies are considering some of our aims that are not just within that particular silo. So I like to see the overlap between the housing and the transportation. As many of us are aware, we've been talking about our transit plan for a long time, so the word is out. So as we think about being able to really get ahead of acquisition, I think we are going to be playing a bit of catch-up in that regard. But I think that we've got to do something, so I'm glad to see that baked in here in the form of a policy. One thing that I will say that I would like to see more of is ownership. As we talk about displacement, affordable housing, we understand is not just about being able to acquire the land so that we can do some of the types of deals that we've been doing, which have been very much multifamily, very much rental or leases. At the end of the day, when we talk about anti-displacement and really empowering our residents, it's got to connect the dots to ownership. So I'd like to really see us lean in on that, which I think also is reflected in our Housing Trust Fund allocations as well. So look forward to seeing how we strengthen the ability to enable more home ownership as well as workforce housing as we think about recruiting employers to the area, particularly those that are looking to move so that they can have access to top talent. Want to make sure that we are leveraging our workforce development team to consider how we can include employers in that capital stack for workforce housing along the future lines. Thank you.
So I just thought, I actually asked Marcus to give me a hint of what I should know, but I think it might be good because this is something that Cassie has put together as we're talking about all of how this works. More than 70% of customers in the CAT system are people of color. More than 60% earn less than $60,000 per year, and in that group, more than 40% earn less than $30,000 a year. So when we're talking about the changes and the ability to serve and to make neighborhoods safe and to be something that we have equity in, we have a task, and we need to really make sure that we put together the policies, as Ms. Watlington says, to be able to serve those folks as well as the others that are coming into our community right now. So any further questions on this topic? Mr. Jones, do you have anything further?
Closed session.
All right, so with that, we will go, I'm going to ask Mr. Fox if he will give us a motion to go into closed session.
Sure, the motion should be the motion to go into closed session pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143-31811A3 to consult with the city attorney to preserve the attorney-client privilege in the matters of Charlotte water property transactions, Davidson Eastern Rocky River sanitary sewer outfall parcels number 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, and with respects to a lawsuit that's 25 CV 007182-590 entitled NATO versus City of Charlotte. That is the motion.
So moved.
Mayor, okay. There needs to be a vote.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor of going to closed session, raise hands. Any opposed?
Okay,
That's unanimous. Thank you.
all right, so if everybody will clear out.
Santa. I'm the real life Santa. When my kids were little, however many years old, I let them think Santa came bearing gifts from the North Pole. I couldn't wait for the truth to be told. And one day I sat them down and let them know I'm the real life Santa. And I buy those gifts. I work so hard, overtime and double shifts. Felt like a big weight was off my shoulder. Had to get their mind straight for life as they got older. Ain't nobody coming down our chimney. And if they try, the clip's getting empty. I'm the real life Santa. And I buy those gifts. I work so hard, overtime and double shifts. I'm your real life Santa. I try to make every day Christmas. I work so hard. Hey, Saint Nick got nothing on this. I'm the real life Santa.
And it's just because that they live in the housing units that are next to the apartments. I know that I saw Ms. Ashmira's compliment, or Mr. Zane had contacted you about the same issues. And what has happened is that they're concerned about violent crime and the conditions in the adjacent Enlivian apartment community. So they're really trying to focus or getting something that we don't have authority in terms of Enlivian, but they believe that we probably should figure out a way to impact this. And I don't think that that's appropriate. We've had Enlivian for a long time, and we do not have authority over Enlivian except making those, suggestions for their board of directors. And in this case, and I have to say that the Mayor Pro Tem and Mr. Graham have really taken this to task, and they're working on it. And so what has happened that we've done since this time, the Housing and Neighborhood Services have engaged the community leaders at the Park of Oatlawn, and they're coordinating efforts now with Enlivian, CMPD, and other city staff as they're trying to figure out a plan that we can have come back. So I know that they're going to come down, and they're passionate, and they're going to speak. But at this time, I think we have done everything possible that we have the authority to do to be able to listen to them and then determine what the next step is that may be possible. But right now, we don't have any additional possibilities. Mr. Jones.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. So I'm just going to reiterate what we try to do as staff to get you prepared for the public forum. Maybe a month and a half ago, there was a concern about you not getting enough information about the speakers coming. So I believe each Friday you get as much as we can give you in terms of the interactions between the staff and the community members, as well as an update on the Monday. So the two items that the mayor just mentioned were part of your information on Friday and again on Monday. And again, the concept is we are engaging with them. Sean and the rest of the team will be up there for anybody who comes down so that we can get information and be able to talk to folks and get it back to you within that time frame that we established.
Yeah, that was good work, by the way.
Yeah, can I?
So I'm sorry.
We got a couple.
What did you say? Who, you had a comment?
Johnson.
Ms.
It's a few.
Johnson?
It's- I think it's
Well,
1, 2,
Ms.
3.
Watlington, I think Ms. Johnson has spoken already. Ms. Watlington?
Okay, quickly, and then I see Mr. Graham as well. Appreciate the background information on the people. That's an improvement. I do want to call out that part of, at least for myself, the concern was that the folks in the audience who were maybe coming to speak didn't have the benefit of some of the information that we had. So if we can add that layer on it as we go on, that'd be great. And I don't know if that shows up as a connection directly to those who have signed up based on what subject they've listed or what, but I did want to make sure that we add that piece of it.
Okay, all right.
Mr. Graham.
Mr. Graham?
Yeah, just 2 comments. One, to Councilmember Molina, I did talk to the gentleman that's coming tonight. He caught me on the phone, and so I did more listening than talking. So I appreciate the email that you sent. And then, yeah, that's it. The other one, I think we already covered.
Ms. Ajmira?
So, thank you, Madam Mayor. That information that Lexus is sending out is very good. It's very detailed, and she also follows through. So I appreciate that that's 100% change than what we had. We had no information before. I do agree with Councilmember Watlington, but maybe having, we have a screen up there. So having some sort of response there would also be useful about what's going on, so that people who are speaking or who are in the audience know what we are doing proactively.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, and let's see, we were coming around. Ms. Johnson,
Yeah.
okay?
Thank you. So I agree with council members Watlington and Ajmira as well. The response to the public, it's nice to have the information in advance and share it with us, but it's when the members are speaking with us and we're silent. If there's a way, if there is some information, we can respond and let them know that we're working on that. Also, I sent you an email, I don't know if you saw it, and also Alexis about another speaker tonight that's coming before us. So I
I'm
shared some
sorry
information.
that I missed it.
That's okay.
It's been a
I'll
busy
tell you before
day.
we go downstairs. But it's the
I
member
think-
that wants to propose that we buy
The park.
some land. Yes, a parcel. So,
Yeah, I did see that,
Okay.
thank you. I think one of our questions is, I know. I think one of our questions is that sometimes when we say, like, we get a summary of what they're going to talk about, but they don't talk about what they say that they were going to talk about. So I don't know that we have the ability to keep that screen going unless it's in time or whatever, And I think that we have to figure out, I think we ought to have the staff do a little bit more work on that, because I don't think that we can immediately address, because a lot of times when I watch them and they have their comments, and then they go with the staff, and they're still explaining again, and it might be easier just to say, tell us what you are going to address us to do, instead of it just being, go ahead and starting the talk. But I just don't know if we can be as, ready as possible to do that on the screen. But we'll take a look at it and see what we can figure out. Okay, so let's see, what time is it now?
19.
It's time to go downstairs. And would you say, and go home later?
Time to go down.
Oh, Mr. Jones, anything else? All right. Evening, everyone. Thank you for being here. I want to call the Charlotte City Council's meeting tonight to order. And we're going to begin with our introductions, and we'll start with our city clerk.
Stephanie Kelly, City Clerk.
Anthony Fox, interim city attorney.
Good evening, Victoria Watlington at large.
Good evening, everyone. James Mitchell at large.
Marcus Jones, city manager.
Vi Lyles, mayor.
Good evening, Dante Anderson, District 1, Mayor Pro Tem.
Malcolm Graham, District 2.
Ed Driggs, District 7.
Darrell Carter, 6.
Good evening, Luana Mayfield, Councilmember at large.
Good evening, Marjorie Molina, District 5, on that side.
Good evening, Dimple Ashmore at large.
All right. Did we miss anyone? Yes. All right.
Renee Johnson, District 4.
You did, all right.
We begin our meeting with an invocation that's an expression of inspiration for us. We do this by following our invocation, we have the Pledge of Allegiance. The invocation is by a council member. It will be Ms. Mayfield this evening, and it's intended to solemnize the work that we do. We celebrate religious diversity in our community, including those without a religious faith, and tonight we will have our invocation, as I noted, by Councilmember Mayfield. And then immediately, if you wish to participate in either the invocation or the flag, then let's take your choice. If not, we understand that that's your perspective on this. So with that, Ms. Mayfield.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is a non-denominational prayer for empathy amongst meeting participants. For those that are inclined, you may either bow your head and/or lower your eyes. In this convergence of minds, let empathy be our guiding star as we share our stories and perspectives. May we take a moment to step into each other's shoes, to feel the pulse of their experiences. With each empathetic connection, we fortify the bridges that unite us, ensuring that all deliberations are enriched by a tapestry of diverse insights. Through this invocation of empathy, let us weave threads of understanding and compassion, fostering an environment where every voice is truly valued. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. We're now going to move on to our public forum for this evening. On behalf of the entire City Council, I ask that all speakers and audience members be civil and courteous in their use of language. Speakers are encouraged to address the council and should refrain from responding to people that are speaking, audience members, or someone like that. We want to ensure that every voice is heard, and it's best when we listen. And so we will now begin with our public hearing and with our public forum. So because we have a rule that we have 15 speakers tonight, and you have 2 minutes for each speaker. And now where are my speakers? All right, we're going to start with our public forum, and we will go, as I said, through 15 speakers. And we will start with Jonathan Gardner. Mr. Gardner?
Can I go? All right. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Hope you all are doing well. City manager, mayor, council members, and staff members, thank you guys for listening to me today. My name is Jonathan Gardner, and I am the founder and executive director of Guardhouse, Charlotte's premier workforce development program for underserved college students. And I started the organization in 2019 because of my own experience trying to find a job here in Charlotte. See, I went to Charlotte School of Law, and for those who are probably familiar, it shut down, and I needed to find a job. However, though I had a lot of experience, I didn't have professional connections. And it's in that moment that I learned that students who come from underserved communities are twice as likely to be unemployed upon graduation. So I developed Guardhouse to not only give them the experience that they need to enter the workforce, but more importantly, build their professional connections. And I'm here today to talk to you all because I understand workforce development is an extreme priority for the city right now. But more importantly, us as a city, we want to grow to become in that top 10 in upward mobility. And since 2019, we can help with that. See, we've raised over $2 million by way of support from Bank of America and Wells Fargo to create over 200 workforce opportunities by connecting our students with small businesses, nonprofits, and government departments like Mecklenburg County, where we currently have a 3-year contract. And as a result, 100% of our graduating seniors have either went into employment within 6 months of graduation or continued education. But the other important part is the local support that we provide to smaller businesses. Right now, we maintain over a 4.3% rating out of 5 in terms of employer partner satisfaction. And although that's all great, we really want to see this grow. And so therefore, in closing, I hope that we're able to partner with the city's workforce development initiative so that we can align and really grow this thing, because there's so much more work to be done. And I know with your support, we'll get there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker, I may not get the name exactly right, but I'm going to do my best. It is Piotr Pyratsa. It's Czech, right? Is he here? Is he here? Okay. All right. Piotr Patruzak. We'll see. All right, so if he's not here in the building? Okay, thank you. All right, our next speaker then is Natalie Yaspos. Thank you.
Thank you, Council, for your time. My name is Natalie Aspo. I'm the president of the Oberbeck Farm Neighborhood Association in the Park Crossings area of South Charlotte. I'm here today to request an update to Chapter 10, Article 3, Section 10-136, neglect of a premise in the Charlotte, North Carolina Code of Ordinances. Over the years, we've had several residences within our neighborhood that are obviously vacant and unattended. When speaking with code enforcement, I have been advised that, quote, unless the homes are open and vacant or are in a dilapidated condition enough to warrant a housing case, there is nothing that code enforcement can do, end quote. This is a major concern for our neighbors. Some of these houses are known to have been vacant for many years, one of which I know for a fact has been vacant for decades and belongs to a possible hoarder. Although the exterior of the houses do not appear to be in dilapidated conditions, nor are the yards unkempt, we don't know what's happening inside or what vermin concerns there might be, which could easily impact the immediate neighbors. Then there's the concerns of the increased criminal activity in our area. With these known and very obviously vacant homes around, this can only be grounds for hiding spots for these delinquents. And as a victim of a recent attempted break and entering in my own home, I personally would like to limit such possibilities in my neighborhood and around the city. As the code explicitly states, it shall be unlawful for a person to neglect a premise or create a dilapidated condition on property. I'm requesting that code enforcement be allowed to act upon homes that are merely neglected, not just in a dilapidated condition. We should be encouraging these homes to...
Thank you for making that. I'm going to ask if you would work with Sean Heath, who actually is the staff person that can help you and have some information for you. And we look forward to the response that we can have later from you.
Okay.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much. All right, our next speaker is Jay Walker. Mr. Walker? I do have.
So he said we owe.
Mr. Walker, thank you. You want 2 minutes, please?
Well, good evening, good night. I would like to say, first of all, this is Black History Month, and we have 28 days in Black History Month, and we got 2 minutes to speak. That's terrible. That's terrible. Okay. My wife and I live in Marjorie Molina's district, and we have 2 signs in our yard. Our lives don't matter, and this ain't living. And the city council is predominantly Democratic. And this is not democracy, that's hypocrisy, where you let a white, racist bitch harass us, threaten us, and stalk us. Okay? The mayor, I give you the benefit of the doubt, maybe you didn't realize, last time we were here, you recommended us to speak to the mediators and to the police. The police is part of the problem. They enable this white racist guy, and the mediators suggested that we speak to him, kumbaya, shake hands, come to an agreement. They don't really see that it's not a feud. Okay, it's racism, discrimination. And the mediators and Willie Ratchford need to be called out. He seems to think that this is it's good guys on both sides.
Thank you very much for coming forward again today. My understanding, though, is that we have provided a number of opportunities and efforts through our Community Relations Department to you as well as Mr. Uri. And I think that some of these mediations, people have said, yes, we want to work it out, but then it doesn't happen. And so I think that we will encourage to work with you and both parties to participate as long as it's in good faith. I'm sorry, ma'am, if I am speaking, and if you wish to speak, please go outside and then, or sign up to speak. Thank you very much.
I'm not going to speak. I'm not going to speak to him, okay? You don't ask the Jews to speak to Hitler, okay? It's not going to happen. I'm not on board with mediation with him.
And that is a significant decision that you have to make. So your time is up.
Decision's already made.
Thank you very much.
Decision's already made. I'm not speaking to him.
Okay, thank you.
Fight the power.
Our next speaker is Joseph Morena. All right, now our next speaker is Mark
Joseph
Joseph.
Joseph
There, I see
Margolis.
him up there. Okay, I understand. Marlo, I am having a tongue twister day, I think. Thank you, Margolis. Thank you.
I'm just waiting for the clerk to distribute some materials. Sorry.
right, I'm sorry, please begin. Oh, we're passing around the document?
Yeah, just,
Okay.
I have visual aids that are going to be relevant. Does everybody have it?
Almost. It's still coming around.
Thank you.
All right, go ahead, 2 minutes.
Good evening, council. I'm here to present a problem and a solution that you have the power to execute at no additional cost. And the problem exists with how land use has been determined in our neighborhood. With the construction of North Graham Street and University City Boulevard, that intersection has radically transformed my neighborhood. My neighborhood is Michael's Landing. If you look on that visual aid, we're the condo community in the picture at the top of both pictures. And if you look, it used to just be Rumpel Road, and it was a nice little two-lane tree-line road that was relatively easy to access. And if you look at that, just look at the tree canopy. It's pretty extensive. And in terms of accessibility, kids from my neighborhood would often walk along the side of the street to get to Dorada School for outdoor recreation. Now, if you look at the second picture, it's been cut off, that access to the school has been cut off by the North Graham Street construction. And additionally, you look at the tree canopy, it's been stripped. And this causes the city to fail us in several of the key priorities of the comprehensive plan, which I've listed on page 2. But the important part is that you have the power to help us with this because you own that parcel that's outlined in red. And it's basically someone's old yard. A house used to be there. It's ready-made for placemaking and tree canopy. And why I'm involving you is because the city staff has already educated me that they plan on making some sort of decision on it. So I'm asking for you to influence that towards placemaking.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, so Joseph, I think we're going to have Allison to come and talk with you about what might be the opportunities and respond to that. So thank you very much. Our next speaker is Valerie Washington. Ms. Washington, you're up at the top, and you have access to the microphone there. So if there's someone up there to make sure that that works for us, we'll be in good shape.
It's on.
Yes, please, go ahead and begin, Ms. Washington.
Okay, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
On the board up there. I came in because I was here about 5 months ago, and I asked you guys for your help. And it was a housing situation that I was in, and Mr. Kenny Robinson and Miss Danielle, they worked really, really hard to get me a new place. And I am just grateful for that. Most of all, I'm grateful to God, but I'm grateful to them and you guys for sending them to me, because I got out of a situation where it was unlivable. And they came to the rescue, and I just came to say thank you. And I am just so happy right now because they came through for me. You know, I'm sure they could do it for other people, but it just takes time because it took me a few months. But I am so grateful that you guys were on your job. I mean, you just got to be patient. But they worked hard, and I wanted to thank them, and I thought they'd be here tonight, but thank y'all.
Well, we'll make sure that they know that you came, and we will make sure that we express your gratitude, and we are grateful that you come down to say
Hallelujah.
that this was appropriate and addressed. So
Yes.
thank you so much,
just
Ms.
wanted to
Washington.
thank you. I just wanted
You
to
brought
thank
me
you
some
guys.
sunshine today, girl.
Hey, hallelujah. Hey, I'm good. I don't care what nobody says.
That's some sunshine.
That's right. Thank
The buzzer
you.
didn't go off yet, so, no, I'm just kidding.
Okay, you're welcome to stay and tell anybody about your
Thank you.
experience, okay?
I'm telling them right now.
All right. Our next speaker is David Reboloso. David?
Good evening.
Thank you. 2 minutes.
Beautiful.
My name is David Robloso. I am the founder and creator of Operation Clean Health. Operation because I'm retired military, and health because I was in healthcare for 30 years, and clean because now I'm in the laundry business. So my wife and I are have 2 laundromats, and we've been very blessed. And with that, we created a nonprofit called Operation Clean Health. The purpose of that is, or the way it's going to work is that is by creating a community laundry fund. And because laundry touches so many people, everyone actually, there's several buckets that we're going to be able to work with, or groups. Churches, schools, other nonprofits, and retired military and first responders. So there's a lot of potential, there's a lot of opportunity out there to do some good things. I have a plan that I potentially, it could go national, but I want to start with my first location on North Tryon. I have 2 stores, laundromats on North Tryon, 6301 and 4554 North Tryon, which is very close to Sugar Creek intersection and the corridors of opportunity. And once I get some traction going, I like to get some momentum, and create a group, and create a project called Charitable Charlotte. So like I said, there's a lot of potential there that we could take it citywide, statewide, but I need an advocate, I need a champion, I need your support to help make this happen. So if I'm available, you can come out and then check out my stores, and I'm at your service.
Thank you. I think we're going to ask Monica if she would take a look at what it goes further to do, and she'll contact, Monica, would you mind working with Mr., I can't say your last name, David? So, okay, but on the situation, so thank you very much. Our next speaker is Kelsey Joseph. Go for it, Kelsey.
All right, thank you, Mayor, Council, City staff. Thank you for having me tonight. My name is Kelsey Joseph. I've met with many of you, and I appreciate your time. I'm here to voice my support for animal care and control again. I won't rattle off statistics or give you a glaringly realistic description of what it's like day in and day out at the shelter. Myself and all these other advocates have been here for over 2 years doing just that. During these nationally tumultuous political times, I think it's even more important to show up for our local community. Rather than being here begging for the same things we've been asking for years, a new shelter and a department independent of CMPD, I could be more engaged in the work I do to help our unhoused neighbors. I could spend more time helping at the shelter. I could simply enjoy dinner with my family and find some joy amongst the chaos. I'm hoping this budgeting season you will continue to prioritize animal services. Our shelter is overflowing. It's the worst it's been in a while. Last week, 229 animals came in. Staff is having to make decisions on who to euthanize and carry out that awful responsibility often. It's collectively exhausting and traumatizing. Until systemic changes are made, it's only going to get worse. People are losing access to affordable pet-friendly housing. Oftentimes, those animals are brought directly to the shelter. Other times, they're abandoned and later retrieved as strays. Anecdotally, we're recently hearing of local vulnerable people fleeing the U.S. out of fear and having to leave their pets behind. Where do those animals go? Likely right to our doors. Charlotte has not been proactive in growing animal services alongside population growth. We've got to start aggressively catching up. I'm asking you to please move animal services out from under CMPD, fund, and quickly push forward the shelter expansion project. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Kevin Alexander.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Alexander.
My name is Kevin Alexander, and I'm here to speak to you about the needs of Charlotte-Mecklenburg Animal Care and Control. I've lived in District 1 for nearly 7 years. Over this time, my wife Madeline and I have been actively involved with local animal rescues, including North Meck Animal Rescue, Yellow Brick Road Animal Rescue, and now Friends of CMACC. We love the city of Charlotte and specifically chose to move here after graduating from college. We have all the amenities someone wants in a city, yet it retains that small neighborhood feeling. There's growth and development in this city that sets it apart from other cities, such as our light rail, greenways, parks, highways, and more. The leadership in the city anticipated this growth and is meeting the demand. However, working closely with rescues and shelters, I've become aware of the impact the city's growth has had on resources and staff at CMACC. According to the American Veterinary Medical Institute, over 45% of U.S. households own a dog, over 32% own a cat. Applying that to the nearly 1 million people in Charlotte, this is conservatively over 770,000 animals, not counting multi-animal homes or pocket pets such as gerbils, hamsters, etc. Charlotte-Mecklenburg Animal Care and Control has not had the resources to keep up with the growing number of animals in the city. The shelter needs more funding for a bigger, updated shelter and more staff positions. They also need to be moved out from under CMPD. Without this, they will continue to be strained and limited in their ability to impact their community. City staff, volunteers, and fosters will continue to witness death and trauma through euthanasia at their workplace. Please be the leaders your city needs and take action today. Prioritize the needs of the city and provide the resources that CMACC needs. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Deneen L. Carroll.
Yes, good evening, everybody. Okay, so I'm here to address an issue that impacts everyone. It's funny, we were talking about congestion in Charlotte in different ways. Traffic. So I have a request or a problem statement. A lot of companies now have hybrid return to work right now. And I know right now there's an effort to go on with DOT to deal with congestion. My request is, coming from Ballantyne, for example, I think it's really not wise to have road construction during rush hour traffic. We're already trying to get uptown, and there's a lot of people coming in. So if I give an example, Fairview and Providence in the morning, it sometimes takes 30 minutes just to get like half of a mile because there's construction. My request is, if you can work with DOT to ask them, just like other major cities, if they're going to do work, 7 p.m. to 7 a.m., because it is creating a traffic nightmare for people coming from all parts of Charlotte to do road work in the middle of rush hour traffic. It's already stressful enough in the morning. More and more people. I used to live in Waxhaw. I moved to Ballantyne. It's taking me longer to get to work now than when I was in Waxhaw. And a lot of companies now are also going to potentially move to 5 days a week. So can you imagine what this is going to look like? It's already bad enough if you don't manage the construction. So I'm just asking City Council to work with DOT to regulate the time that you decide to do construction. Because I'm going to tell you, it doesn't make sense to do it on rush hour traffic. So that's my ask.
Thank you very much for your comment. So we'll follow up. If you will see, Allison will help us. You know, there's a rule book for traffic and all of that, and they know more about it than most of us up here.
Amen.
So we'll have you work with Allison right over there, if you give her your information, so that you can have a conversation about it, and we can figure something out, okay? Okay. All right. So now that takes us to our next speaker, Kendall Little. I'm sorry, you have photos and you want, yes, if you would give them to the officer, he'll get them to us. It's- There's a guy up there. Wants to- I know this guy. He wants to know about late expense reports. All right, thank you for joining us tonight. You have 2 minutes.
Good evening, Charlotte City Council. Thank you for taking the time to allow me to speak for you briefly. Before I begin, I want to tell you a quick story. On November 24th, 2024, I woke up to a loud boom and a screech. As I went outside to see what happened, I realized it was another accident between Belmont and North Davidson. This accident was different from any other one I've sat through and heard before. It was a pregnant woman, and I heard her scream, "Oh my God, my baby, my baby, my baby." Sometimes I still think about that moment today, and that's why I'm here before you. This was the 8th accident that I've witnessed at that intersection from when I first moved to the area in April. I'm aware that a traffic light is approved at this location, but I'm here today asking Charlotte City Council to please expedite this process because the situation has not only worsened, I've already seen 3 accidents to start 2025 in the same area. I'm here today because I'm hoping that we can expedite the process of getting a stoplight or a crosswalk because it's a matter of public safety. Driving down that road every single day is a risk not only to my life, but to my fellow Charlotteans. Also, it's very difficult for people to be able to support the local businesses such as Optimus Hall, Rosie's Coffee Shop, even Birdsong Brewery, because there's not a crosswalk. Oftentimes, it takes me minimum 1 to 3 minutes to cross the street because I'm having to wait for traffic to die down. Finally, I want to address the impact on taxpayer resources. This intersection is right by the CATS terminal, which in some of the photos you'll see a CATS bus was involved in an accident. That was on October 31st of last year. Not only that, emergency responders have to take their time and resources, which I appreciate. However, sometimes it takes 3 to 8 cop cars to solve the problem with an accident, and I appreciate that, but the issue is that there are so many other issues in the city that it would be helpful if they didn't have to respond to a recurring problem that happens about once a month. I've left you photos documenting these accidents, and I hope the city can work for a better alternative for Charlotteans and for everyone else. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, so we're going to have you talk with Allison so that we can get some more information. And I see that the photos are coming around, and we'll make sure that do you need your photos back, or do you, okay. Then we'll make sure that the staff gets those as well. Thank you very much. Okay, so our next speaker is Monica Williams. Careful. Yes, right here. Come around and go up to the mic. No, go up one more step. And that mic is live.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Williams.
Good evening.
Good
evening. This is on behalf of the park at Oak Lawn, where I live. Let me tell you a story of what used to be Fairview Homes. It was suggested to be gentrified after being studied like a genome. You see, things were going as planned to support and help people in need. Then things took a turn, becoming slack and not looking back to help support the greed. Millions are spent on housing programs in Mecklenburg. I need to see the mission statement. If that mission does not align with what's going on, perhaps one needs to consider an abatement. The park at Oak Lawn, formerly known as Fairview Homes, was created to make things better. Sadly, things are not working out and has forced us to start writing letters. Shrek is a perfect example. You see, let me explain the need. He too was faced with gentrification in his face because the fairy tale folk needed a place, because they too fell victim to greed. Mecklenburg County represents Duloc, Shrek's fictional town, city fairy tale folk around. Shrek's beloved swamp represents our neighborhood home with lots of caring to give. But dumping people around like fairy tale folk is not a way to live. I would be remiss not to include Shrek. Oh, what the heck, he's quite the feisty soul. As he planted the seed, he became the voice of fairy tale folk, and after they spoke, he decided to address their needs. You see, Shrek represents homeowners that care about their hood. He doesn't mean any harm or cause an alarm. He just wants Lord Farquaad to keep his word and do good. You give them a fish, they eat for a day. If you teach people to fish, they will eat for a lifetime. Stop giving away the fish. So what's the moral of the story? Analogies are a great way to emphasize art imitating life. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Sean Williams.
I know he's my front brother. I can't remember Sean.
Good evening, everyone.
Mr. Williams.
Ladies and gentlemen of the City Council, thank you for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Sean Williams, and I'm the president of the Homeowners Association for the Park at Oaklawn, which you've just heard. Just so you know, the Park at Oaklawn consists of 71 single-family homes, the Anita Stroud Senior Center, which has 83 single units for our seniors, and 178 apartments that are managed by Enlivian. Additionally, we're being supported by an Ivory Baker Rec Center by Park and Rec. I'm here to address a pressing issue that affects our community's safety, but also the very fabric of our neighborhood. I call it the mismanagement of our apartment complex by Enlivian. Over the past few years, we've been witnessed a troubling rise in violent crime within this tight-knit development. Shootings, both random and sometimes targeted. I have a family here today of Carlos Levia, who lost his life, 25 years old, in our community a few months ago, contributing to the uptick of the poor management of Enlivian over the apartments. Many of these units in the apartments have fallen into despair and disrepair, becoming breeding grounds for criminal activity. When basic maintenance is neglected, such as excessive trash, no power washing, the overflowing of bulk trash, poor drainage systems, which creates moats in many of the areas, creating an environment for mosquitoes to breed. The conditions of the apartments not only creates an unsafe environment for residents, but also invites illicit behavior. Broken lights, unsecured entrances, and inadequate security measures send a message that these properties are not being cared for. This in turn attracts unwanted elements, leading to increased crime rates that ripple out of the impact of the entire neighborhood. Moreover, the deteriorating infrastructure of the apartment complex has serious implications for our community's property values. When potential home buyers see poorly maintained rental properties, they often choose to look elsewhere, driving down the values of surrounding homes. Families invest their savings into properties, hoping to build their future, only to see their investments diminish.
Mr. Williams, thank you.
Yes.
I would like, I think you know Mr. Heath over here, and I would like if you would organize your group to meet outside. Mr. Heath will meet with you to get the remaining of your remarks, as well as talk with you about what your concerns are. And I think Ms. Mayor Pro Tem Dante Anderson will join Mr. Heath as well. Thank you very much. Sean. Wow. You know, you just can't stop them sometimes. Okay. All right, so our next speaker is Ann Lambert. Ms. Lambert.
Good evening. My name is Ann Lambert, and I'm from the theater company Charlotte's Off-Broadway, and I'm a resident of the Baptist Center. Thank you, City Council members, for voting to move forward with the Arts and Culture Board. With this action, you are moving Charlotte closer to the next step that is most meaningful for me, enabling independent artists like me to apply for competitively awarded grants to support our regional projects. That $2 million investment out of a $2.5 billion budget is a modest investment that will have a huge impact for independent artists in Charlotte. When I watched the meeting where the vote was taken, I heard and appreciate the concerns expressed by select council members regarding accountability and equity. I think one way to address those concerns is for all city council members to become more aware and knowledgeable about independent arts in Charlotte. I personally invite you to attend more arts events, particularly those produced by independent artists like me, and to read the Arts and Culture Plan, and to invest more time and energy and money in implementing the plan's recommendations. I am here to help you achieve those goals. I invite you to reach out to me to schedule a time to meet with me and some of my other independent artist friends at the Charlotte's Off-Broadway space. It's a 55-seat black box theater inside the VAPA Center I personally maintain so that my artist friends and I can produce small theater projects and pursue our artistic ambitions. I welcome you to talk with me and my friends about your concerns and discuss ways that we can address and mitigate those concerns going forward. I want you to be excited and assured that the money the City of Charlotte is investing in independent artists is fuel for an economic and creative engine that will produce exponentially beneficial results for everyone involved. Thank you again for supporting independent artists in Charlotte.
Thank you, Ann. Our last speaker for this evening is Tommy. And we have one more after him, Tommy Nichols.
Hello, Mayor Lyles, City Council, and City Manager. My name is Tommy Nichols, founder of Power Up USA and the Charlotte Black Film Festival. As a 15-year organization, we just received our first grant from the city, and I thank you. As a result, last night we closed submissions on the microfilm grant, where we're giving African and Latino Americans here in Charlotte $500 to $5,000 to produce their next film. We're also sponsoring and producing an production assistant boot camp in April for the workforce development so folks can go directly on set. So I thank you. During the committee presentation, someone mentioned that ASC in Charlotte is Creative was the only organization to work with the National Endowment for the Arts. Just want to get that clear. We've hired 2 years in a row to work with the National Endowment for the Arts to review and recommend $1.4 million in funding to media art organizations across the country. In addition, I was asked directly by Sundance and the National Endowment for the Arts to be a founding member of the Independent Media Art Organization that's national, where I represent 8 states in the Southeast. Finally, tomorrow, you guys will get 2 emails. One is an impact statement to share with you why I think we're the best art and culture and digital inclusion organization in Charlotte. And second, to invite you to our new space, CLT Creative Workspace in the Freedom Wilkerson Opportunity Zone, where we have a 5,200 square foot space with an AI lab, 20-station computer lab, podcast studio, film and photography studio, a conference room, and other entities where we're empowering the next generation of creative and digital equity individuals. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nichols. Thank you. All right, so we have one additional speaker, Chef Maria Kemp. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and council members. 73% of employees have a second secret job, caregiving, and that's from Forbes. Many miss out on valuable resources and support because they don't even realize that they're caregivers. Who are these caregivers? They're city employees, first responders, transit workers, CMPD, and thousands in the private sector, from small businesses to the 18 Fortune 500 companies that call Charlotte home. They're balancing careers while raising children, caring for aging parents, or supporting loved ones with disabilities. Caregiving isn't just for elders. It affects all generations. How do I know? Because I was one of them. I'm Chef Maria Kemp, and for 8.5 years, I cared for both parents 6 years apart while managing career, managing my career. Like thousands of Charlotte residents, I silently juggled work and caregiving, stretched thin emotionally, physically, mentally, and financially. Why am I here today? As a DEI professional, I've worked to create inclusive workplaces, and caregiving is a workforce equity issue that disproportionately impacts women, minorities, and lower-income workers, yet it's often overlooked. I've shifted my focus to ensure caregivers don't have to choose between a paycheck and the care of their loved one. Is Charlotte ready? In 2030, 73 million Americans will reach age 65. This is a silver tsunami, meaning more people than ever will need care or be responsible for providing it. Will Charlotte be ready? Caregiving is a workforce crisis, but Charlotte can be a leader. Investing in caregiver support strengthens our economy before employees burn out or relocate their families to other states. I would love to speak with a member of your team for further action. Who will meet with me? Thank you.
Thank you. Jeff, thank you for those remarks, and thank you for reminding us that the silver tsunami is coming, or many of us that are around this dais. But I want to ask if you would work with Monica over here. She's got, and having some conversation around what possibilities that we have in this city to be supportive of our seniors. So thank you, and the caregivers that help them. Thank you very much. Now I believe that is the last speaker for our public forum, and we now will go into the public hearing that we need to have tonight. This is a public hearing on Norfolk Southern O-Line Corridor Acquisition Financing. And we're going to open up to the public hearing for that. And then, do we have any speakers?
No, ma'am.
We have no speakers. So we have no speakers. Do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved, Mayor.
Second.
And a second. All in favor, please raise your hand. All right. Do I have a motion to adopt a resolution authorizing and approving a directly placed installment financing contract in an amount not to exceed $93 million?
So moved.
Second.
You have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, please raise your hand. Anyone opposed? All right, thank you very much. And so next, we'll move into the policy section of our agenda. Do we have any updates, Mr. Jones?
Yes, thank you, Mayor, members of council. I have before you my 30-day memo, which outlines from February the 26th, the National League of Municipalities Town and State Dinner in Raleigh, North Carolina. Through our committee discussions, we also have National League of Cities Congressional City Conference in mid-March. We have the zoning meeting on the 17th, and while I think we probably cut a day off of Sean's 45-day clock, we will have our March 24th, the next time there's a business meeting, an update on the public safety plan that we have been talking about. I think even in the interim, Sean is reaching out to all of you to make sure that he keeps you up to date with some of the things that we're talking about. And then, Mayor, the last thing I'd like to do is just point out two things in the manager's report, and it really highlights many of the things that this council has done in terms of public safety. So I want to talk a little bit about CMPD's civilian crash investigators that just began this past mid-December. Since that time, they have responded to more than 2,000 crashes, and maybe more importantly, that's about 1,800 service hours from uniformed officers that are now able to address higher priority calls. That's the equivalent of 6 officers in that short period of time. So something that came out of the Safe Charlotte plan that has been implemented that's been working. And then lastly, a shout out to Charlotte Fire Department. I had an opportunity, much as you, Councilmember Mayfield, a couple of weeks ago. I think you were at the 130th class, the fire recruit graduation. Just a wonderful moment. I think if you've never been to a police recruit graduation or a fire recruit graduation, just the energy in the room for the families and everyone being proud. I will say that kudos to Charlotte Fire as we sent resources to Kentucky, much like we did to the western part of North Carolina. 21 members of CFD went to Kentucky to assist with rescue operations in southeastern Kentucky, which was overwhelmed by historic flooding and dangerous winter conditions. Some of the same people we deployed in western North Carolina. CFD is adjusting operations to ensure local fire stations remain fully staffed. But it's just a shout out that it's not just what occurs for us, it's when the call comes, we go. And I'm very proud of our public safety folks. So I just wanted to do a little shout out tonight for both CMPD and Charlotte Fire. Thank you.
All right, so now we'll go to item number 9, the National League of Cities 2029 City Summit. Is there, for item number 9, is there a motion to adopt a resolution?
So move.
Second. Okay, we have a motion and a second for the hosting of the National League of Cities 2029 City Summit in Charlotte. And so we have a motion from Mr. Mitchell and Ms. Molina, a second, and so is there any discussion? Mr. Mitchell.
Mayor, let me just thank the CRVA for doing an outstanding job filling out the application for hosting the National League of Cities. Citizens, this will be our 3rd time hosting this conference for every elected official across the United States. We did it in 2005. It generated about $5.3 million. We did it in 2017. It generated about $6.3 million. And so I think this is a great win for our city to once again showcase why we're the 15th largest city and everybody's still trying to come to Charlotte. I'd like to thank everyone from this table for being involved in National League of Cities. It takes really a team effort and a city effort for National League of Cities to want to come to Charlotte again. So thanks everyone, and to Marjorie, Dante, Tijuana, Victoria, Renee, this is your baby. In 2029.
That's exactly
Let you know now.
Even though I won't be up here, but yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor.
I won't be up here, but how visit y'all?
Thank you. Okay, so we have a motion on the floor. Any other speakers? Hearing none. All in favor of the adopting of the resolution, please raise your hand. Anyone opposed? There's no opposition. So now our next item is to adopt a resolution authorizing, item 10, adopt a resolution authorizing an upset bid process for a portion of land containing approximately .065 acres from the 1.0180 acre city-owned parcel. Identification number is listed in your book, located near North Brevard Street, Charlotte, North Carolina. And that's item A for this action, and then the item B is to direct the city clerk to cause a notice of proposed sale to be published, which shall describe the property, the amount of the offer, and the terms under which the offer may be upset. Do I have a motion?
So move, actions A and B.
All right, we have a motion. Any discussion?
Need a second, Mayor.
All right, we need a second. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor of the process, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, so the next item is item 11, adopted initial finding, I'm sorry, we've got that done with the, adopt initial findings resolution authorizing the city manager as his designee to make appropriate application to the local government commission for issuance of general airport revenue bonds not to exceed $350 million and setting a public hearing on April 28, 2025 for this financing as required by the IRS, Internal Revenue Service regulations.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion to approve. Mr. Winston, I think that we have what the attorney has said to me is that you would come when we have the public hearing.
This is a motion just to set the public hearing for the date to occur. It hasn't been advertised yet for a public hearing. You will have an opportunity to speak at that time.
Speaking about the agenda item that we're considering, the public hearing.
This was not a public hearing on your agenda, and the council would need to waive its rules to allow members of the public to speak.
Because we would have to allow people to speak on this once that the hearing has been set, that you would have to come back for that.
It's like it's April 28th, right?
The
So
only
we have-
decision tonight was to set the hearing.
hearing,
So if you have a comment about whether or not we should set the hearing, feel free, but otherwise, the subject matter will be discussed at the hearing.
Okay?
Yeah. Well, if you want to waive your rules and allow someone to speak on your agenda items, even though they're not on the agenda, it doesn't call for a public comment.
So, second.
I'm
What's the
sorry.
question?
What happened over here?
She made a motion to waive, and I seconded.
All right, we have a motion and a second to waive your rules for items on this
Just to
type
let
of
him
this
speak.
type. So to allow Mr. Winston to speak, all in favor, please raise your hands. 1, 2.
Sure. We're early.
All right, so, and with that
So that
motion
was me.
fails.
So it failed, but me, Johnson, and Mayfield voted to say
Right,
yes.
3. Okay, that's 3. So the motion does not
Tarek said
pass.
yes as well.
So thank
Don't
you.
forget him.
We'll see you on the date, I'm
Say
sorry,
yes.
Is
Mr.
Tarek saying yes?
All right,
Yes.
Okay, so can we see the vote again?
He did. It was on,
did.
it was
We did
on
the
floor.
vote.
It still failed.
Okay.
Okay. I'm sorry, Mr.,
How many opposed?
how many opposed to the?
I'm sorry.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's see, do we have 6? All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have
More than-
6, so
more
the
than
motion
four.
is not.
Just getting the
passed.
just getting the record.
Right, yes, Mr.
But Mayor,
Mitchell.
just for clarification, in City Attorney, I just want to be clear, because it says that the public hearing is going to be set for April 28th, 2025. And so our former colleague will get a chance to speak. We know Braxton passion, so I don't want the narrative to be out there, we don't want Braxton to speak on this issue. There's a date set in the book for April 28th, 2025, Braxton. So I want to make sure we see your smiling face back here. Okay.
So thank you very much. So with that, our next item is item 12, appointments to the public. Oh, did we set the hearing? Yeah, we
Hearing.
voted on the hearing
Yeah,
already.
the hearing is in the,
We already
Yeah,
did.
it's set already.
yeah.
Yes, we already voted on it. We voted on the hearing already, didn't we? No, we did not. Okay, now we're going to vote on the motion to have the hearing.
For this, to
We
vote.
lost it in all of that. So all in favor of having the motion for the hearing as identified in item 11? All right, that's unanimous. Thank you very much. All right, so now we go to item 12, which is, I'm sorry.
Did we make the motion and second it?
She had a motion.
Yes, we had a motion and a second.
Okay,
Yes.
okay, all right, good, okay.
All right, so the next item is item 12. The council will make appointments to the Public Transit Advisory Committee. The council members voted by ballot and submitted their ballots to the clerk earlier. And so any nominee receiving 6 or more votes is automatically appointed. And so let's turn this over to the clerk to proceed the results of the ballots.
Madam Mayor and members of council, there were 2 names that received 6 or more ballots, and those are Robert Hillman and Tanya Jameson. Those are
Move to
your
approve by
appointed.
acclamation.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to accept those 2 nominees for our motion. So Robert Hillman and
Tanya Jameson.
Tanya Jameson. Any other comments? All in favor of that motion? All in favor? Anybody opposed? Thank you very much. We have a
Motion
motion
to
to
adjourn.
adjourn. Thank you. And we have a motion. All raise your hands if you want to adjourn. If you don't want to adjourn, just stay and hang around.
I think I stay hang around.